what we are obviously developing is a new technology for respiratory conditions, and we are mainly focused on COPD at the moment. So we start usually just to get this picture of imagine you have been to breathe through a straw for the rest of your life, and then you get a cold. That will be obviously a very worst case scenario. But that's what happens to 390 million people affected by COPD. And there are 3 million premature deaths every year. There is a huge economic loss with 4 trillion on cost for this condition. And there is a disease progression. And these are mainly based on exacerbations and infections by virus and bacteria. The challenges remain for this condition. So this is expected to be 600 million affected by 2050. And the main driver of this disease progression will be the exacerbations. So these exacerbations happen when you have mainly some virus or bacteria infection, and virus is the main kind of cause for this kind of progression of the disease. There is no approved antiviral treatment for COPD patients, unfortunately, and there has been a lack of innovation related to anti-inflammatory drugs. So the ones that we have at the moment, or they have a limited window for their use, or they are based on corticosteroids, which have limited therapeutic use for some of the patients, and are linked as well with pneumonia and adverse events. If you have one of these exacerbations, the most likely thing is also that your clinician will give you some antibiotics. And as we were saying before, if you have viral infection, this is not going to be of any use. And obviously it comes with all the different downsides of using or abusing antibiotics. So essentially, we came from the challenges that we had in terms of exacerbations, lack of innovative treatments, and then the antibiotic abuse. So MA001 is a drug that we are developing. This is a novel anti-inflammatory drug, and we have this drug is anti-infective and tissue protection as well activity. The drug is a sulfated polysaccharides that we obtain through industrial fermentation.
Have you switched slide, or are you still on 4?
I'm still on 4, yeah.
Okay. Yes, great. On
the industrial fermentation of microalgae and the further downstream modification. Our first indication will be an inhaled therapy for the avoidance of exacerbations and disease progression in COPD patients. So traditional drugs, what they do is to target a specific molecule or the downstream of the inflammation or a specific pathway. This leaves a lot of different molecules available to continue this kind of loop, positive loop of pro-inflammatory loop. What we are trying to do is something completely different or quite innovative. So we are trying to address the cause for this inflammation and target multiple pathways as well of the inflammation cascade. That leaves just only some of these molecules that are responsible for the positive feedback available in order to perpetuate the problem. In more detail, how it works, our inhaled therapy is that we have tested it in vitro and in vivo, so we have the data to support these claims. And we saw that we are able to inhibit the viral and bacteria triggers, reducing all these pro-inflammatory signaling and also reducing the viral infection. This has been done in animal models. We also reduce any kind of signaling that triggers infiltration of immune cells. We are able to block this positive feedback that we talked before, so through the inflammation process. So again, we are able to decrease the inflammation and restore homeostasis within the system. And fourth and not least, we are able to inhibit proteases. These are responsible for degradation of tissue and also a worsening of the condition. So the impact of MA001 is that we are here to reduce the global burden of COPD. We are here by reducing the disease progression, complications, and deaths. The outcomes of this treatment is the reduction of the exacerbations, as we were talking before. That is the main driven for these complications and disease progression, and protect your lungs from worsening. We also are aiming to reduce the reliance on corticosteroids that are currently used in most of the patients, even if they are not beneficial for them and they have an increase of risk of pneumonia, and also other anti-inflammatory drugs that have adverse events or undesirable effects. The drug is produced in a sustainable and low-cost manner, has low toxicity. So this will allow us to enter new markets and obviously make more universal for the use of this drug. In terms of development, we are requesting 5.5 million euros, and that will take us up to the phase 1 clinical studies. At the moment, we have done the manufacturing in R&D in a lab, and we are now in a position to transfer this to the CDMO. We have done some pre-formulation work to demonstrate that the drug can be inhaled. And we are obviously developing all the different activities required for IND. This is going to create a number of value inflection points for the company. The most notably will be at the end of this preclinical phase 1 clinical studies, where we will be able to license. But obviously, the most kind of added value for the company on inflection point will be when we complete the phase 2A clinical studies, where we demonstrate efficacy in healthy adults. Some exit examples we have. Obviously, you have AstraZeneca committing to a 400 million deal at preclinical stage. And we have also Verona Pharma, which is phosphodiesterase molecule, also against COPD, which is listed in NASDAQ and has a market valuation of 1.7 billion. In terms of the team, we have a broad experience. We have people that has been involved in a number of M&A. We have also a chairman who is very knowledgeable and has a lot of experience with polysaccharides, like our molecule, and has been in innovation roles within GE Healthcare. Myself, that I have a scientific background, but I have also been involved in venture capital and also managing other biotech companies at clinical stage. Professor Clive Page is our main advisor, and he was the founder or co-founder and former chairman of the Verona Pharma company that we talked before, of 1.7 billion market valuation. And Dr. Claire Moss, which is our advisor, has been involved in the development of this technology since inception, really. And yeah, I would like to finish with thank you with all the people that are collaborating in this project, but also our founders.
Cool, thanks. Where are you located?
Sorry, say that again.
Where is the company located?
So we are based in Norway,
okay.
And we have manufacturing capabilities there.
Okay. And who are the first investors who have funded the company so far?
Yeah, so they are local investors. So these are wealthy individuals, people who have different kind of investments in the region. The main kind of challenge, and we are kept funding by these shareholders, but the main challenge that they are facing is that they are not knowledgeable within healthcare. So we are trying to bring other healthcare investors that will also validate the technology further.
So I can get, first of all, now this is not a business angel case, right? So I'll try to switch hat to be an early stage VC, because when you're raising 5 million euro, you have classic seed stage investment, right? That will basically mean that it's early stage VC fund combined with some local, maybe governmental funds. So you have Innovation Norway who most likely will top up whatever you're having. Yeah. So in terms of pitch, if I were you, I would turn the pitch a little bit around and talk about who you are, the team. Simply because even VCs, even though they claim they're specialists, they have a hard time evaluating your data and where you are in the early stages, right? So basically, a big part of early stage funding, even VC funding, is what is your background. So the entire 10 minutes about all your data makes more sense when I know that this guy from Verona Healthcare, whatever the company is called, was in it, right? So I would start with that.
With a team.
That was actually, which I think is the most important thing, especially when it's so knowledgeable of this, because again, most VCs can't really qualify your claims until when they do diligence. Of course, before they give you the money, they find 5 key opinion leaders and give them money to find out, well, this is really as cool as you say. But the initial qualification will be done by their team.
Yeah.
And they'll be looking for actually 2 things. The first is who you are. And the second thing, and that will be a challenge for you going forward, then it is, who are your investors, right? Because I'm not facing the same. I'm actually de facto co-founder of a cancer vaccine company in Denmark. It's not my idea, but I went into the company when it was still a university project.
Yeah.
And one of our problems were that we didn't have any of the 3 local VCs in Denmark on board for many good reasons.
Yeah.
And that means when you show your deck to a German or French VC, I guess that question number 3 or 4 or 5 will be, what about the local Norwegian ones, right? What about the local Scandinavian ones?
Yeah, we had that question as well, yeah.
So my guess is that, of course, if you have 5 knowledgeable, I'll call them angels from Norway, who have done pharma before, you can sort of put them in front and saying they know what they're doing. And maybe this guy from Norwegian, I don't know how wealthy that person is, but maybe that person could also come with real money. I don't know. But I think, again, I cannot qualify your technology as such, but of course your background makes it, okay, this could be interesting, right? And then if I were you, I would focus 90% on Scandinavian funds, right? So that will be the Novo Nordisk Foundation, right? The Novo Seeds, it will be the Sunstone. They're now just throwing the names from Denmark.
Yeah.
You have a few also. You have the Hedén, which is Swedish Norwegian, right? You have like, I guess, 6, 7, 8, right?
Yeah.
Long story short, that most likely one of them will go into that. And when you have one of them on board for maybe the 1.5 million, right? Then you have a much better story going abroad.
Yeah. I think the challenge is that there are limited number of these VCs within the Scandinavian environment, right? And when you scout for investors, there are hundreds of them worldwide, and there's just only a handful in Scandinavia. And if you don't fit with their risk profile or the type of molecule or the stage of development, then
I totally agree. I've been in your shoes. We don't have any of them on board, and for exact same reasons, right? Is like we were doing cancer vaccine. One of them were investor in a competing thing,
Yeah,
one of them just didn't have the gut feeling that this would work, etc., etc. So I totally get it. I'm just saying
it will facilitate
with this amount, because I know what they're thinking when you go to a French or Spanish or whatever. They'll be thinking, why is Hedén not on board? Why is Sunstone not on board? Why is whatever? And I know all the good reasons why they're not. But I'll really give everything to have one of them on board first. Then what do you do if you is 5 million? So 5 million euro was the amount that will make you go through GMP, right? But not to fulfill the phase 1, right?
Yeah. So we will initially have a tox batch that we will use using GMP like, and then obviously we will have to develop or produce the GMP batch for the clinical studies. Yeah.
So anything less than the 5 million doesn't really make sense for you because you can't really get to.
No.
Can you get soft commitment from Innovation Norway for half of that? I don't know how it works in Norway. It will sort of be working like that in Denmark if you.
Yeah, you have with Innovation Norway, you have to be closer to market. They need to see that you are going to be creating the jobs and you are going to be close to commercialization. We have a lot of money from Research Council of Norway. Okay. So we had so far 2 million euros, more or less, give or take, from the Research Council of Norway.
Past or in the future?
Now and in the last 3 years.
Okay, so not going forward. So there's no matching option of if you find 2 million from external sources, you can get 2 million from Innovation or whatever. That doesn't.
No, not exactly. We are in conversation. They will be willing maybe at the phase 1 clinical studies. That's something that could be a possibility for them, I think, to come in. But we are talking to others that they might have that kind of facility, but obviously they require larger amounts. For example, the European Investment Bank. So these guys that they are looking for this type.
Yeah, but that's that bigger sums, and that's also quite bureaucratic, right? Have you applied to SME IC Accelerator? The SME.
We are planning. So essentially, we have now a workshop now in June, early June, with key opinion leaders in the UK. Because this collaborator is based in the UK, but we have people that are responsible for establishing the guidelines for treatment that they are coming to the workshop. So this is kind of based on following your advice as well. We plan to have their feedback at the front of the presentation, really. Yeah,
and I think so my plan A would be the local VCs as the 1 million water to give the credibility. I think my plan B would be someone with maybe less deep pockets, but who know this space a lot, like former executives within this area, 5 of them who put in 200,000 euro each, something like that. Because I think you're really looking for this credibility, right? So when you go to French VC fund or UK fund, you're saying, hey, we have the 1 million from these 5 really cool people who know the space, right? I'm not saying that it's easy to get, but I think that would be my plan B. If you can't get, of course, I'll still talk to all the international VCs, but I'm from experience, and I have been in your situation 2 or 3 years ago. It's just really, really hard to.
No, that makes a lot of sense. We obviously still continue talking to different VCs, and we have more traction, in fact, with VCs in the US than we have in Europe, and that's kind of the lesson.
But I would also say that, not to be the cynical guy here, but from that and then to that VC actually do seed stage investment in a Norwegian company is quite far, right? Because I would target those who have already made early stage investments in Europe, because many of them would like to talk and know what you're doing. But I would really focus on the ones who have in the past made you, because many of them simply have a mandate saying, we can only invest in North America. So will mean that you have to switch and make a Delaware company and all that, which is also a mess, right?
Yeah. What we found as well, it's that people in the US, they like to invest in Europe, but mostly in the UK. So if you have a company within the UK that they are able to use as a vehicle for the investment, that also works for them. So we have a shell company in the UK as well. And there is a lot of funding available in the UK as well with this region.
Yeah, but most of that funding is also linked, early stage is linked to the ICE and size tax, meaning where a shell is not enough. You can only works if you have people on the ground.
Yes, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of the promise.
You're totally right. The early stage funding for biotechs in the UK is far higher than mainland Europe. So unfortunately, I don't have the silver bullet. I think, again, I try to put the VC hat on and say, this about local fund on board or alternative opinion leaders would really be, and again, the company I were in, we survived because we got the European money, right? We got the 2.5 million grant. I know it's not easy to get, but it's really worth applying for.
We will try that one as well, and obviously like the part of equity as well that they could invest, and the connections that always make a big difference, really.
But I'll just have to say that the equity that come with requires co-funding from a VC. Which I know from experience, because we actually thought in the beginning we could get it without, but you can't. You need a VC to put in 50%.
Yeah. So no, but that's been very useful, Nicolaj. And so thank you. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
we will keep trying. And
Yeah. It's funding biotechs is not easy in Europe, and actually that's one of my. I actually think that the funding gap is not that big from basically everything besides biotech, because the money is so big and that the knowledge required to evaluate them is so specialized. So there is in Europe, I think it's one of the best opportunities for investors would be early stage biotech in Europe, because there's no competition.
yeah,
Imagine I had a VC fund and really like your product, or your project. The competition I'll be facing will not be big, right? Of course, I'll not dilute it, but I can actually get very good deals, and I think the science
yeah,
in European biotech is outstanding.
yeah,
And you have a global market. It's not like SaaS where it's a big advantage being in US versus here, right? You have a global market. But
yeah,
that's another story. So I know
yeah,
how hard it is. I'll stop the recording now. But thanks a lot for participating in this experiment.